I bought a vacation mobile home almost 2 months ago. It's not much, 2 small bedrooms, a cramped living room, a basic kitchen, and 1 bathroom. But I didn't buy it for luxury. I bought it for peace. A quiet place to escape from the city. Somewhere I could visit solo or bring a girlfriend, if I ever get one. The property spans 2 acres, tucked near a mountain I love to snowboard on, just 10 minutes away. That sealed the deal for me. I figured I'd come up a few weekends each winter, maybe more. The first weekend, my family helped set it up. We hit a local furniture store, picked up a couple of cheap couches, and made it livable. My dad's truck helped get it all there fast. At some point, while we were hauling stuff, a man walked over from farther up the road. Introduced himself as Dale, thick Hudson Valley accent, rough around the edges kind of guy, clearly a long-time local. Friendly enough, if a little talkative. We all exchanged names. I figured I'd be the one seeing him the most, so I made an effort to be extra polite. After some small talk, Dale lingered a bit, but eventually wandered back up the road. I returned 2 weeks later, alone. I brought my gear, a few groceries, and was planning to set up Wi-Fi. Not long after I arrived, Dale showed up again. This time he didn't knock, just walked right in through the open door, casually saying hello. I forced a smile and told him to come in, even though he already had. He looked around, complimented the place, and after a few minutes invited me over to his place for a beer. I figured, why not? His home was also a mobile unit, maybe a bit larger than mine. We sat out on his deck. He handed me a Heineken, and I asked how long he'd lived there. 20 years too long, he muttered. That set the tone. He grew bitter fast. Every question I asked was met with some jaded negative remark. Then he turned the questions on me, asked where I was from and why I was here. I explained I was from Queens and bought the place to be closer to the slopes. That's when his mood shifted. He started ranting about city people, ruining the area, littering, crowding, bringing noise. His voice grew loud, slurred. I tried to laugh it off, to diffuse it, but his tone got darker. I don't know why y'all can't just stay where the fuck you belong, he spat. I stood up, smiled tightly. Okay, I think I'll head back now. Thanks for the beer. He didn't reply, just stared at his drink. I walked back down the road, and just as I reached my property, he called out, "I'm sorry." I turned, gave a thumbs up, but inside I was rattled. That night I lay on a bare mattress watching something on my laptop when I heard it, a voice outside, low, angry, like someone arguing with themselves. I paused the video and strained to listen. Couldn't make out words, but the tone chilled me. I peeked through the blinds. Nothing but darkness and trees. The next day around noon, I heard knocking. Persistent, loud. Dale's voice followed. "I know you're in there. Your car's here." He knocked for 5 straight minutes. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Eventually he left, I think. That night I heard the voice again. I paused my video and stepped outside, flipping on the porch light. That's when I saw him. Dale, standing just beyond the tree line, arms limp at his sides, staring at me. The second the light hit him, he turned and bolted into the woods. Heart racing, I called my dad, told him everything. He said not to call the cops yet, that it might stir up more trouble, ruin the whole point of having a peaceful getaway. An hour later I tried to sleep. Then came the shouting. "Silly piece of I know you're in there. Leave. No one wants you here." It didn't sound human. It sounded off, slurred, snarling, like something unhinged. That's when I realized Dale wasn't just eccentric, he was unstable. Suddenly, the low price of the property made sense. I left the next morning, took anything of value. I haven't been back since. When I do return, I won't be alone. And if he steps 1 foot onto my land, I'm calling the police. Right now, I'm genuinely afraid to go back. My name is Garrett, and what I'm about to share happened when I was a sophomore in college. After not getting assigned a dorm my second year, I scrambled for off-campus housing and ended up in a co-op, a 3-house community somewhat near campus, though still a bit of a hike. It wasn't ideal, but it was cheap, and I had my bike, so I made it work. Most of the residents were other students, but there were some exceptions, a few grad students, some older folks working toward degrees later in life, and a couple of alumni. But one person stood out immediately, an older woman who lived in the house next to mine. She looked to be in her late 50s, maybe older. Grey hair, a noticeable limp, and a vacant, distant expression on her face. She never smiled, never interacted, and always looked as if she were trying to remember something she couldn't quite grasp. I assumed she had some university connection, faculty, staff, maybe an alum, but nobody ever really explained, and I didn't ask. The first odd thing I saw her do was during dinner one night in our shared kitchen. Even though each house had its own kitchen, she stood silently in ours while the rest of us cooked, joked around, and played music. She wasn't eating or talking, just watching. Occasionally I'd catch her eye, and it felt like she was looking through me. I figured it was just my imagination, but no one else acknowledged her presence, which somehow made it feel even stranger. A few nights later, I saw her again, this time outside. I happened to glance out my bedroom window and saw her in the middle of the street, staring up at my room. It was late and cold, and she wasn't even wearing a jacket. She just stood there, motionless. I told myself she probably wasn't looking directly at me until I waved. That was a mistake. She suddenly bounced in place, like she was excited, and then ran off toward her house. That's when it hit me. Not only had she been staring at my window, she now knew it was my room. I asked one of my housemates about her that night. He said she'd always been there, and to just ignore her like everyone else did. He didn't know her story, just that someone told him to stay away when he moved in. That wasn't good enough for me. Eventually, a senior who lived in her house told me she was a little kooky, supposedly connected to the property in some vague way, but had never hurt anyone. The official stance was to tolerate her. They didn't have control over who lived there. The property manager did. That explanation didn't make me feel any better. Then it got worse. One night, I opened my door and nearly ran straight into her. She was standing right in front of my room, past midnight, saying nothing, barely reacting. She turned and walked away without a word, like I had interrupted her. Over the next few weeks, I caught her in places she didn't belong, our laundry room, other people's hallways, and always doing nothing, just lingering. Around this time, I lost my room key. It was a big deal. Our rooms still had old hotel-style locks from when the co-op used to be a motel. Most people left their doors unlocked, but I wasn't one of them. I had a spare, but it still annoyed me. Days passed, then came the night I'll never forget. I woke up in the middle of the night, no clue why at first. Then I heard it, a soft, rhythmic bump coming from my closet. I froze. Something, or someone, was shifting inside. My pulse skyrocketed. I got out of bed, crept to the closet, and flung the door open while screaming as loud as I could. And there she was. She had one of my ties wrapped around her neck and a knife in her hand. Her eyes were wide open, unblinking. She lunged. I screamed again, this time for real, and managed to wrestle her to the ground. She bit, scratched, kicked, but I pinned her. My roommate Lee ran in and helped me hold her down, while someone else called 911. The police arrived fast. They arrested her on the spot. She didn't say a word, not during the attack, not after. My room key was found in her coat pocket. Weeks later, the truth came out. She was the property manager's sister. She had severe mental health issues, and rather than get her the help she needed, he had stashed her in one of the vacant rooms without telling anyone. He was later arrested for negligence and more. Honestly, I blame him more than her. She needed help. He just locked her away like a secret. I still don't know why she focused on me. Maybe I reminded her of someone. Maybe it was random. All I know is that she could have ended my life that night. I'm about to graduate, and while I'll miss parts of college, that memory is forever burned into the back of my mind. This isn't really my story, but I watched nearly all of it unfold. My husband Benjamin and I have lived in the same modest 2-story house for nearly 20 years. Our kids are grown and living their own lives now, and we're proud of them all. What I'm about to share happened just last year, and even now it makes me uneasy. A young man moved into the house across the street. That was a bit of a relief, honestly. The place had been sitting empty for months, and I was tired of looking at an abandoned lot every time I sat on the porch. I'm retired now, so I spend a lot of time out there, knitting, reading, or listening to true crime podcasts. Sometimes Benjamin joins me, usually with a crossword or just to chat. The new neighbour looked to be in his mid-20s. He drove a sleek black BMW and dressed like someone with money, tailored coats, expensive shoes, even a gold chain around his neck. I figured he was either very successful or very good at faking it. Still, he was polite. He introduced himself as Quinn and told us he worked freelance in the entertainment business, something about digital work for influencers. It went over my head, but Benjamin seemed to like him. They bonded quickly over sports and stocks and reminiscing about their college days. At first, everything seemed normal. Quinn would wave as he left or returned home. But then, I noticed a white convertible pulling into his driveway, always when Quinn wasn't there. A young blonde woman would get out, walk to the front door, and let herself in with a key. She'd stay for a bit, then leave. I assumed she was his girlfriend, maybe feeding a pet or grabbing something for him. Eventually, I saw them together. He pulled into the driveway with her in the passenger seat. She was beautiful, dressed a little too revealing for my taste, but I kept my judgments to myself. Young people dress differently now, and that's just how it is. But not long after that, things changed. One afternoon, while I was in the garden, I heard shouting. Quinn and the girl were arguing loudly. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her pacing, waving her arms wildly. Then she jumped in her car and sped off. Quinn just stood there in silence before going back inside. At the time, I brushed it off as a couple's fight. But then she started showing up again, always alone, always when Quinn wasn't home. She'd let herself in, stay for a while, then leave. I told Benjamin it seemed off. He said I was just being nosy. Maybe I was. But then came the night everything changed. It was just after 1 a.m. when I woke to flashing lights and sirens. Benjamin and I rushed to the window. Quinn's house was lit up with police cruisers and an ambulance. I threw on my robe and we joined the small group of neighbours gathering outside. We watched as police led the blonde girl, Quinn's girlfriend, out in handcuffs. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. Just stared straight ahead. That alone gave me chills. Then came the paramedics. They wheeled Quinn out on a stretcher, shirt soaked in blood. I gasped. He was gone for over a week. When he finally returned, Benjamin and I brought over a casserole and checked in. He let us in and told us everything. Her name was Ellie. She hadn't borrowed a spare key. She'd stolen it and copied it without him knowing. After they started dating, she became demanding. Fancy restaurants, jewelry, expensive trips. When Quinn pushed back, she turned possessive, controlling. She'd somehow accessed his location through an app and installed hidden cameras in his bedroom. She'd been using those secret visits to change batteries, making sure the cameras kept working. She had been watching him, for weeks. That argument I'd witnessed, that had been Quinn trying to break up with her. The next night she came back, with a knife. He said she stabbed him once and deep, but he fought her off and managed to call for help before it got worse. The doctors told him if the wound had been a little deeper, he might have died. He was quiet, shaken, nothing like the confident guy we'd first met. Before we left, he said something I'll never forget. I've learnt my lesson about showing off around pretty girls. He moved out a few weeks later, said he didn't feel safe staying, not knowing who she'd told or what her friends might do. We haven't seen him since. I hope he's okay. I pray that wherever he is, he's safe, healing, and surrounded by good people. No one, especially someone so young, should ever have to go through something like that.